Welcome back, Bears fans, to a Thursday edition of the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. What is going on, everybody? It's Thursday, also known as the CHGO Audible Day, our weekly in-depth game preview, all aimed to make you the most informed Bears fan on game day. I'm yours, DeWitt, and right here is Nicholas Moreano. Nick, what's up, man?
What's going on, Will? How you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I have internet. I feel like a human being that can live in the 21st century. But honestly, I'm plugging for a few days and just hanging out with the fam, doing board games, reading books. It wasn't terrible, but it's definitely nice to just have internet connection, cable TV yet again. So yeah, I'm doing good.
What board games are you guys playing?
Oh, let's see. Sorry, Trouble,
Okay,
which to
yeah.
me are like very similar games now as an adult. I've kind of noticed. There's this one that's called Yeti and the Spaghetti, which is like a spaghetti bowl with like these fake noodles, and you set a Yeti on top, and it's pretty much like Jenga. You don't want the Yeti to fall into the bowl when you pull the noodle.
Got it. Okay. Never heard of that one, but that one's new. But you just don't have internet too, Will. You have like super internet. Like seeing the numbers that you posted, I'm like, holy crap. So they definitely did their job there, and I'm glad that you are back in the 21st century and have this very resourceful just tool that everybody uses.
And it's just consistent. Usually, like it was a wave when I would do the internet test, and I was like a straight line, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We also played What Do You Meme, the SpongeBob edition, which was a lot of fun. I can really get into that one. I'm sure you would too.
That, oh, for sure, for sure.
All right, so I'm excited for today's episode. Of course, it's one of my favorite days of the week. We're going to discuss the keys to success on both sides of the ball, determine who has the edge, share our weekly X factors or bold predictions brought to you by Greenridge Farm, and a whole lot more. And of course, if you're here in the live chat, we want you to ask questions throughout the show. Joey is on the back end, our awesome producer, and he's going to star them up. And we're going to, just like we have every single week, dedicate a lot of time at the end of the episode to answer your Bears questions. Just out of the entire episode, I think it's really the best way that we can end this thing off by getting some insight on what's on your mind too. A couple reminders, smash, shatter, bust, break to pieces, that like button. You can follow me on Twitter at Will DeWitt. My L's are 1. And of course, you can follow Nick at Nicholas Moreano. Nick, Bears, Vikings. What's like your one-line analysis of the opponent that we have in store here this week?
Well, good. Dual threat. Dual threat is how I'm going to describe the Minnesota Vikings. What
Dual
about you?
threat. That's a great one. I don't know exactly if I can summarize them into one single line. They're beatable. I just don't know
hmm
if the Bears will do enough at the end of the day to come out on top. But this is another winnable game for the Bears, and we'll break down exactly why. Well, right now, let's go ahead and do it. Oh, there you go. Rubbing the hands, getting ready. Let's start with our offensive keys. Nick, over to you. What's your first key to success on offense this week? It was, ugly is a kind word I'll use from last Sunday. How do we get better?
Yeah, I think just basics. Will go to the basics. Know your assignment on the offense, and I'm really looking to a guy like Darnell Mooney. He explained in his press conference a couple days ago that there was the one play where we all thought that Justin Fields should have thrown the ball to Cole Kmet in the flat. Well, Darnell Mooney's supposed to do something else on that play. He chipped. He had a mix up with Equanimous St. Brown on that play. So that was one screw up. And then the play that got a lot of publicity, the 4 verticals where Darnell Mooney's supposed to bend over the middle of the field. Instead, he ran the route the same way that Matt Nagy's offense actually ran that play. So he ran that route instead. And maybe if he runs the route the correct way, maybe instead of Justin Fields getting 12 on the ground, he's actually airing it out to Darnell Mooney there. So know your assignment. This is a team where if they're making mistakes on their own, it's already difficult for them to capitalize over the little things. But if you're making self-inflicted things like that, there's just the margin for error for the Bears on offense is very, very small, Will. So just know your assignment. And it's not just Darnell Mooney. It's obviously everybody a part of the offense there, but it starts with a leader on that team. Their supposed number one. Know your assignment so that you can potentially execute the plays.
Do you think now that we're officially a month into the season, we're at the point of like where the excuses are starting to feel a little mute in terms of like not knowing what you're supposed to be doing. This offense has been installed since what, April, give or take. So it's now October. I feel like obviously you're going to have mistakes along the way, but they should at least know their assignment, know what they're doing, and trying to at least put, everyone in a position to succeed and help Justin out. I feel like a month into it, we're at a point where it's like those hiccups should be minimal. I know there's still going to be learning curves, but they need to be cleaned up even more.
Definitely do, Will, and I understand it. Yes, they're gonna mess. You're gonna have hiccups, like you said, along the way. It's the first time they're in this offense, first year in it, and 4 games into it. But it's like they need to correct, especially with like one of the mistakes happened in the red zone. If you're gonna make those mistakes, make it not in that area, because one, the Bears don't get there very often, and when they do, they need to capitalize on points because, like I said, margin for error very small on this Bears offense.
We'll get to that in my third key. So stick around for that. My first key this week, Nick, is just that offensive line needing to gel. And when I was preparing for this episode and thinking about last week, I kept coming back to like, we need to be careful what we wish for because it's been, we want Tevin at right guard. Why can't he start at right guard? Let's have him be a full-time right guard. And now he's going to be one, but that's because of Cody Whitehair going on IR and now Lucas Patrick going over to the left side. And I think the early results in game last week were rocky to say the least. But again, when you flip flop sides the offensive line, that's not easy. It's not interchangeable. Everything gets completely reversed. Your stance, your assignment, literally everything. So changing that in game is difficult. But now Patrick has had a week of practice. So I'm hoping that this lineup can gel a little bit. Last week, Nick, we saw what can happen when this Bears offensive line just gets bullied around the run game. It went away. It wasn't nearly as effective as we saw the first 2 weeks of the season. And the Bears have some, unfavorable matchups yet again this week. Zadarius Smith, Hunter, 21 pressures, 3 sacks, 16 hurries. So those tackles are going to be tested. Then you have Dalvin Tomlinson on the inside, a player that has really surprised me this season. 10 pressures, 2 sacks. And he's just going to go after the guards, both Jenkins and Patrick. And he's been winning his matchups, good against the run and also very good at getting after quarterbacks. When I watch him play in that Vikings new 3-4 defense, if you're wondering, like, what should you expect out of this guy? Like, he plays like that Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols role. I'm not the same degree as a Hicks, but somewhere in between him and Nichols is what I'm seeing out of Tomlinson so far. So he's going to really test those guards. How are you feeling about that front seven matchup?
Man, like the guy that I'm most worried about, and obviously they have some guys on the edge that can get some pressure on the quarterback, but it is Dalvin Tomlinson. We saw what happened last week against the Giants, right? And in the interior of that Bears offensive line, when you look at Sam Mustipher and you look at Lucas Patrick, how they played, Tevin Jenkins, it has been the best offensive lineman thus far, but it's the interior, Will. And Dalvin Tomlinson had his best game as a pass rusher from the interior last week against the Saints in London. So he's, maybe getting a head of steam here and wants to put back-to-back good games. So that's the guy that can really wreck a game plan. Anytime you get interior pressure from any defensive lineman, that can really cause some problems. So that's the guy I'm really watching for.
Now, you mentioned it. Tevin Jenkins has been the Bears' best guy up front, and he's been playing until the injury, not even half of the snaps over the last few weeks. Now being the guy, do you expect that to, remain the same?
Uh, so I think for Tevin Jake, now we're going to be done with the rotation and we'll see him still play at a consistent level because he did say initially when he was getting that rotation, it was kind of nice getting a breather every once in a while. But now we're 4 games in, right? So I think you're kind of conditioned more to what to expect throughout a game. But that will be something you have to monitor because he hasn't done it, right? It's been Patrick, it's been Jenkins, and now it's going to be just Jenkins. And I think that's best though for the offensive line moving forward because, like we said, he's been the most consistent guy, and yet he's new to his position.
Yeah, for sure. How about key number 2? Lay it on me.
Oh boy, here we go. And my notes have disappeared, but I still have them. And we're talking about it right now. It's just the interior of the offensive line, interior blocking, guys. There were plays where Justin Fields had no shot. Like after rewatching it, I was like, I came away with the thought process of what could he have done? I know he said after the games, like, I could slide the protection. yes, you could do that, but when your center is getting beat in milliseconds off the line of scrimmage and there's guys coming right up in your face, like, yes, you can use your legs to get outside the pocket, but man, it is tough to execute any type of game plan, any play when that happens. So, like we just were talking about with Dalvin Tomlinson, don't let him have another good game because it doesn't matter if Justin Fields is, on his game to start this one against the Vikings. Like that can disrupt you. That can cause some problems. And the Bears are thin on the offensive line, especially in the interior with Cody Whitehair going down. So they got to shore that up. Hopefully, whatever protections that Justin Fields can do himself, he feels comfortable doing so. But again, we just talked about it. It's a new offense. So I don't expect those changes to come 1 week after they just surfaced against the Giants. So it's a tough ask, but man, they got to clear it up in this game against the Vikings.
100%. If they can keep it a little bit more clean, that would really help me in my second key, which is just have an efficient aerial attack. And the key word here is efficient, not dominant, not explosive, just good old efficient. The Vikings pass defense, Nick, it's been worse than their run defense to date. In some categories, they've allowed 250 yards or more in 3 of the 4 games this season. Hell, last week, Andy Dalton threw for 273 yards against this defense. And look, the Bears, they're middle in the road in terms of yards per completion, 10.9. And that's very similar to where the Vikings give up too. But the Vikings defense is the 7th worst defense in terms of yards allowed through the year per game, 264 yards per game surrendered. The Bears right now, when you look at who they played, they've only played one defense that is outside the top 10 league in pass defense. And of course, they're helping those teams rank really well. We have to give that some credit too. But this Vikings defense, again, 7th worst in terms of like facing like average pass attempts per game. And they allow quarterbacks to complete nearly 70% of their passes. That's like the 3rd worst in the league. Like this is a defense you can pass on. So, if the Bears can find an efficient passing attack, this is the week to do it. There's a good matchup that you can feel. I'm not going to say good about, Nick, but like I see it on paper, but paper and the playing field are 2 totally different things. And the Bears here just need to simply find ways to move the ball down the field through the air, 5 yards here, 8 yards there, a 10-yard play, quick, easy passes, cater to Justin, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method that we've been talking about for years here in Chicago, because Minnesota's run defense, I mentioned, it's not great, but they're good enough. Like the Giants' run defense wasn't good, but they knew the Bears were going to try to run the ball more times than not. And what happened? The Bears got a little one-dimensional, and that run got stopped, especially in the red zone. So that's where I'm at, an efficient passing attack. I don't know if it will happen, but I can see the path for mild success, which in Chicago right now is massive success.
No, it definitely is. Well, we start off the show saying this is a winnable game, and you look at the Vikings defense, and that presents that opportunity. If the Bears again can do things right offensively, have just an efficient offense, and we haven't seen that. So if they can somehow get things together with their offensive line, Justin Fields taking the layups when they're there, then you can, like you say, like you said earlier, like it's winnable, but man, we just need to see it.
Exactly. And if they can move the ball down the field and get into the red zone again, they were able to get there last week, but you mentioned the execution wasn't there, but that needs to be cleaned up here in week 5 against the Vikings. And it was just got awful last week, failed to score a touchdown on a single red zone trip. But if people were actually like watching our show and listening last week, Nick, like I mentioned this, I warned everyone that this Giants defense in the red zone was their strength. And I didn't expect it to be that lopsided, but they did have the advantage over the Bears, and the Bears could not overcome it. Only one pass completed in the red zone for -3 yards. I tracked all the plays earlier this week. 7 of 9 plays that they ran inside the 20 went for 2 yards or less. Just, you can't do anything when you're barely moving the ball once you get inside the 20. The Bears, up to last week, though, we're cruising in the NFL in terms of the red zone efficiency, 6th best, over 71%. And this week, the Vikings have the 5th worst red zone defense in the league, allowing touchdowns on about 73% of those trips. That's very similar to what the Bears were doing prior to last week. So every other defense that the Bears have played, like those passing defenses, they're actually top 10 in red zone defense. And that's with the Bears going down there and scoring in the red zone. So this is a very good matchup. If the Bears can get inside the 20, Luke Getsy, Khalil Herbert, Justin Fields, perhaps they can find a way to punch it in and score points, because field goals, Nick, we've talked about it for years. It's not going to win you football games. A week ago against the Giants, prime example of that. If you want to beat the Vikings, you're going to have to score some points. And that all comes down to that third key of red zone execution.
No, exactly. I mean, this is a team that does know how to score. They've scored 28 points the last two games, the Vikings, and 28 for the Bears offense, Will. Like that seems out of the question at this point right now. But Justin Fields did say that this last game against the Giants was the first time that they said they didn't execute what they wanted to in the red zone. They felt like the previous three games they were able to do what they wanted to do. And like you just said, the stats back that up. So if they can figure it out, again, a week to prepare for a divisional opponent and, just execute is what Justin Fields said. That's what Matt Eberflus said. Once you get there and execute, then maybe we have more of a ball game. But like you said, the stats show that this could be the opportunity for the Bears to actually maybe have some success on offense.
Yeah, and I see here this comment that we need a jump ball guy to bail out Fields. N'Keal Harry's designated to return. I don't know if it's this week, but soon we should
Soon,
have that
yeah.
guy.
Man, well, he is a huge dude. It just like he was standing next to Amir Smith Marset, and it's like crazy the difference. Their lockers are pretty close to each other. I'm like, I turned to Herb Howard from the Bigs. I'm like, that guy's a wide receiver. He's like, yeah, it's not fair. It's a linebacker that can run downfield. But yes, that's what Justin Fields was talking about yesterday. Matt Eberflus, a jump ball guy that you can use in the red zone, 50-50 ball. Doubt it's going to be this week, but Eberflus said he does like what he sees in him physically right now, but I think it's just going to take time for him to get used to the offense, even though he's had like mental reps, but it's still going to take some time.
Heck, I would like to see these tight ends get involved inside the 22. That's been still missing, and that could be an extra wrinkle just to help them do a little bit more of what they want to do inside the 20. Let's switch over to defense now, though, Nick, and let's get to our defensive keys. What's your first one?
Yeah, right now I think the big thing for the Bears, and they didn't really do this against the Giants, but they got to attack the right tackle, Brian O'Neill. When I was watching that game against the Saints, it was Davenport, their edge defender, was just making it look easy against Brian O'Neill. There was a time where he had a bad like holding call, and then he gives up a sack, and it led to a strip sack fumble. So the Bears know that they have to win their matchups. That's how you win games. You have certain matchups throughout a game, attack it, exploit it, see if you can win that consistently. I just look at their right tackle right now, and Darisaw, their former or the first round draft pick from last year, is playing pretty good football right now. But that's the one. And Travis Gibson, I put as my MVP last week, didn't really win his matchup against their rookie. So we need to see whoever's on that right edge, or it would be the right edge, win. And we haven't seen it from Travis Gibson, Al-Quadin Muhammad, Dominic Robinson last week at least. So you need to exploit those matchups, and Brian O'Neill, I think, a good one for the Bears to look at.
Yeah, we highlighted that right tackle matchup as a huge lopsided one for the Bears a week ago, and they just could not win it. And it was real frustrating to watch because they should have. They were more talented. They just were outmatched, outmanned up front, and you can't have that along the edges. And the Giants did a good job in general of just attacking the edges of this Bears defense. And the Vikings saw that, and they're going to try to imitate that as well. So those ends need to be playing at a high level, and like you said, a real favorable matchup. All right, so my first key on defense, it's very similar to actually a key that I had going into the Texans game. But this one is capitalize on a Kirk Cousins mistake. Nick, we've been doing this show forever, and I feel like every single year, this is a talking point that comes up. It's evergreen, but it doesn't make it any less true. Cousins is going to give you chances. A few weeks back, I said this about Davis Mills, who didn't have any interceptions at the time, but I saw them like defenses just weren't able to capitalize, but the Bears did. Hell, it won them the game. Roquan Smith with the interception. So it has to be a key here yet again. Cousins has 4 interceptions this season already, 3 of which came in a loss to the Eagles. kind of shows you what happens if you can kind of get some of those takeaways. Pressure helps. 2 of those picks came under pressure. His completion percentage drops in half when he has pressure in his face. And that's not a surprise. We've seen him from years. We know pressure is kind of like his kryptonite a little bit out there in the pocket. So get some pressure, force an early throw, and just make a play on the ball. It's not rocket science. Like the Bears need to steal some possessions if this offense can put up points like the Vikings can. They just need to find a way to get them off the field, steal possession, and maybe score some points of their own and keep it close and keep it a game. In order to do that, I think takeaways are going to be a big key.
Yeah, no, definitely are. Well, and you talked about Cousins making mistakes, and we've all seen that since he's been with the Vikings. Go to that London game against the Saints where there was a play, the interception that he threw, Justin Jefferson gets doubled. And I don't think Cousins was expecting that whatsoever because he looks and then hesitates to throw and tries to hit his next target, and then is picked off by the Honey Badger. And that's the thing with Kirk Cousins. Take away that first read, and yes, they have Adam Thielen and a bunch of weapons, but he was keying in on Justin Jefferson being open, throws the ball, gets picked off. So the Bears can replicate that kind of scenario. Take away Jefferson, which is not going to be easy. You can force that quarterback into some mistakes.
Joey, excuse me, but I'm going to go slightly out of order here because Nick just gave me a perfect segue into my second key, which is the Bears need to have a plan for Justin Jefferson. He has gone for 100 plus in 3 or 4 games he's played in against the Bears. In those games, he averages around 16 yards per catch. It's been a rough watch to say the least. Now this year, the Vikings are playing him. Unfortunately, Nick, they're playing him a lot in the slot so far. He has caught 11 of his 12 targets from the slot for 149 yards and a touchdown. Of any wide receiver with at least 10 targets or more in the slot, that he has his 6th best reception percentage. So he's been very consistent, reliable, and impactful when he lines up in the slot. It's just a big play waiting to happen. For the Bears, Nick, we all know Kyler Gordon, he's been struggling covering that slot. I don't want to even dive into the numbers here. I looked into them this morning and I said, it just made my stomach hurt and I didn't want to do that. But we've seen it. Like our eyes can tell us how bad he's been so far in that nickel corner spot. He's been an Achilles heel for this defense. And unfortunately, again, this will be his toughest test to date. He's already struggled against a lot lesser talented receivers, and this is going to be a big one. So I'm just, kind of want to warn everyone, like brace yourselves for this Sunday. So when I look at defensive coordinator Alan Williams, he just needs to be like concocting like some sort of plan here because one-on-one, Nick, that's not going to cut it here this week. Heck, it hasn't cut it at all yet this season. You can't put Kyler Gordon on an island in the slot against Justin Jefferson. There's just too much real estate when he's lined up towards the middle of the field to have to defend. You don't have the boundary to be like an extra defender out there. If you're like an outside corner, you're going to need some help over the top, whether that's Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker. Double teaming may be a very wise decision here because, again, Justin Jefferson's just been dynamite in a slop, and Kyler Gordon's going to need a lot of help.
He is, and Matt Eberflus talked about the struggle of having to defend at number one, like Jefferson, but also you have the running backs, and he called both, Dalvin Cook and Madison good running backs, and yes, they clearly are. So it's like a pick your poison, and you have to be strategic when you do these things. So they're in a bind, Will. Like this is a tough matchup for a team that cannot contain the run, and we might as well go to my second key here. It's like contain the edge. And that's going to be huge in this one. You see the success that all these teams are having against the Bears when they are just running the football. They have faced the most rushing attempts in the NFL at 143 through the first 4 games, and it's because the defense can't stop the run, giving up 733 yards. Daniel Jones looks like an athlete out there going and off the edge on bootlegs and things of that nature. Justin Jefferson took a jet sweep for a touchdown against the Saints last week. Like those are things that I worry about because the Bears have not shown me anything in terms of being able to just play their assignments correctly, contain the edge, force stuff back inside. And when you have running backs that are capable of getting to the edge, when you have wide receivers that are running these motions, these jet sweeps, like that's going to be a problem, Will. So there's that 2-headed monster in the backfield. And Justin Jefferson, like you said, likes to play from the slot. So it's a tough ask for the Bears defense. But second key, somehow, some way, figure out how to contain the edge.
It's interesting. You don't realize what you have until it's gone. And I think the Bears being able to contain outside runs over the last few years, whether it be Khalil Mack or Robert Quinn in that old 3-4 system, and funneling everything inside was something that I definitely took for granted. And now that it's gone, I just really desperately wish it was back because it'll make everyone's job on defense a lot easier. And when you are just able to just get exploited and exposed as consistently as they are, it just makes the offensive job so much more easier. They're like, oh, we can just put it in space and you're not even going to really defend it. Awesome. Let our playmakers do some work. And I saw your graphic and I'm so confused. There's 3 keys on it for defense.
Yes, I usually do 2 for the offense, Will, and then 3. I think I did 3 last week for
Oh,
defense. I don't
okay.
know. Maybe not.
It's been a
I have
long
no
week.
idea. It has been a long week. But yeah, I guess my third key kind of goes with the second one. It's eye discipline. The Bears had none of it against the Giants. And I talked to Nicholas Morrow, Dominique Robinson after that loss to the Giants in the locker room, asked them about eye discipline. And that's where it all starts. If you want to contain the edge, it starts there. And if you're, not looking in the right place, you're late on a play, whatever it may be, you're losing that play. So I don't know how you get that corrected. Matt Eberflus said it's just execution, it's just getting reps. Well, we need to see it. Like he said, it's a simple fix. It sounded like a simple fix to Matt Eberflus. I don't know if it's that simple, Will, because it didn't. They did make some adjustments in the second half. I would say they did a better job, but still, you need to just have your eyes in the right place, trust what you're doing, play with instincts. If not, like I said, all the things we were just talking about in the second key, what you were just talking about, they're going to exploit those things on your defense.
There you go. It's all in the eyes. I like it. It's a very fine detail, but it's one worth noting. And I'm glad that was one of your keys here this week. My final key for the day and on defense, limit the bending and also don't break. Because the Bears have done a lot of bending and breaking, as we saw last week. But this Vikings offense are just average across the board, especially yards gained, 17th in yards per game, and they're also 17th in yards per play. They're not putting up earth-shattering numbers. Obviously we mentioned they have some of those favorable matchups, but the Bears, they just need to stand their ground. The Vikings are almost as bad on third down as the Texans were, for comparison's sake, and the Bears did really good at getting off the field that week, and that needs to happen yet again against the Vikings. There's no reason why the Vikings should just walk up and down the field with relative ease. They need to be able to provide some resistance. And of course, when the bending happened and it's going to happen, just don't break. They did that good against the Texans, which helped them win the game. But last week, the Bears defense, they broke against the Giants, cost them the game.
Mm.
Chicago's offense, as we know, they're not proven to be an offense that can actually put up and score points. So in order to come out of this week with a dub, you have to force the Vikings to be the team that ends up settling for field goals when they're in scoring position. If every time they get to your 30 or so, and you're allowing them just to get a score into the end zone, boy, they're going to put up points in a hurry. And then the Bears are going to be playing from behind. And this is not a team that has an offense with enough octane, enough power to make a comeback right now. So limit the bending and just don't break.
It'd be great, Will, if they can do that, and they don't have the offensive line to allow Justin Fields to pass their way into a game too. So that's that. They need to avoid that at all costs if you want to be in this game.
All right, let's get into our weekly bold predictions here, brought to you by Greenridge Farm. And I'll begin with my bold prediction of the week. And Nick, I just said this offense doesn't have any octane, any power, and they won't score a lot of points. But that's what makes this prediction bold. I have 2 touchdowns thrown from Justin Fields and a rushing touchdown from number 1, giving him a 3 touchdown game. I think that's up there in terms of like how bold I've gotten this year.
Yeah, for sure. And given how everything's playing right now with the offense, it is bold. No doubt about it. And I'm also going with the offense. I think did we both go bold predictions for defense last week? I want to say
Mm-hmm.
we did. They were both the safeties, Jaquan and Eddie,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. So now we're both going offense here, thinking that they're gonna light this Vikings defense up, and they could. Darnell Mooney goes off. And I know people are probably rolling their eyes at me. What? No, it's not gonna happen. Well, he gets his first 100-yard receiving game of the season against the Vikings. We kind of talked about, again, how that is, it could be a possibility. There is a path to success doing that. He had 4 receptions, the 94 yards against the Giants. There was wind in that game. There was no freaking blocking. Still got the 4 receptions for 94 yards. Last time he did play Minnesota, in Minnesota, he had the 12 receptions for 126 yards. So he's had success against Minnesota. I know it's a completely new scheme, new defense, and just new personnel. But it was the final week of the season. I think maybe it can carry over, but the Bears need it. So bold prediction, gets his first 100-yard receiving game of the season.
Yeah, I think we're definitely living in the bold category here today, and I like it. And when you just look at this matchup all the way around, like I think they're not unrealistic, but it's definitely going to be tough sledding to reach these bold predictions, which again makes them bold predictions. Definitely throw yours in the chat if you have any. We'd love to kind of read some of those. But Nick, I have a message from Chi-Town Cornhole. But before I get to that, do you want to let people know a little bit more about Greenridge Farm?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Greenridge Farm One is a Chicago local meat and cheese company that offers a better all natural option, and they're makers of all natural deli meat, sausages, and their famous meat sticks, which are amazing. They're perfect for tailgating, happy hour, and school lunches. And they also gives you 16 grams of protein per stick, which is a perfect post-workout snack. And right now, when you order any three meat products at greenridgefarm.com and include a pack of meat sticks in your cart, those meat sticks will be free. Just simply use the code CHGO at checkout.
Meat sticks. The comment from
Woo.
Drew TV. You got to pump up the meat sticks here on this Thursday episode each and every time. All right, let's get to Chi-Town Cornhole. Chi-Town Custom Cornhole is the #1 cornhole provider for Chicagoland and Illinois since 2007. Their signature box style design, it can be digitally printed, covered in vinyl, and painted. Those cornhole boards come with built-in drink holders recessed in on the back, LEDs that light up the hole so you can play at night, and exterior handles for easy carrying and handcrafted scorekeepers. They're veteran owned and operated. They can ship anywhere. They also offer local pickups. They specialize in corporate designs for your company's next marketing or social event, wedding gifts, and really just gifts for all occasions, and especially for tailgaters and backyard barbecues. You know, we've been talking up the boards that we've had made here at CHGO for a while, and I know they were a big hit at our first Bears tailgate, and I think they're going to be a hit yet again at the next tailgate, which is happening on November 6th, by the way. I know the links are in their description if you want to meet us or hang out with us and just join us as we kind of, get prepared for that Bears home game. So definitely check out Chi-Town Cornhole and get yourself some slick boards for this tailgating season.
Let's do it.
All right. This is the CHGO Bears Podcast. Will DeWitt here, Nicholas Moreano. We're giving you our weekly in-depth game preview episode, and it's time to decide and determine and really discuss our weekly X factors here. And Nick, I'll kind of, kick off to you. What's your X factor for this Bears Vikings matchup?
The X Factor. Oh, that is a
That's
dope ass
love it.
graphic. Love it, Joey. You are the GOAT. Love it. Well, okay, we talked about it so much already, but it's the O line holding up. And if they're capable of doing that, and it doesn't have to be throughout the entirety of the game. That's unrealistic to really say from this Bears offensive line. But if they do even half the better job that they did in the Giants game, especially in the interior, you're allowing Justin Fields, who did have a better game against the Giants, he did, in terms of throwing the football, to then feel comfortable in the pocket. So I think that's going to be huge in this one. And just for, extra bonus here, I think special teams is also going to be an X factor in this one, Will. The Vikings are currently ranked first in expected points added in special teams. Just look what happened last week against the Saints in London. You have a field goal block by Patrick Peterson. You have the strip on a punt return from Chris Boyd. And then Greg Joseph made, I think 5 field goals in that game. So look at their special teams making an impact in this one. So that obviously you have Cairo Santos back, but don't let that be the reason why you lose this game, even though the Vikings have been playing really well in that third phase of the game right now.
I like it. Giving the third phase some attention here in the episode. It's a big part of the game. Heck, I don't know. Maybe it can lose you games.
Yeah, we saw that last week. Hopefully, Velas gets that out of his system. But yeah, we definitely see what can happen when it goes wrong.
So I had the game in my ear watching my kid play football last week, and which is actually kind of cool because I don't know. Like I can listen to Jeff and Tom in my ear and just kind of like look at the field and I can kind of picture where the Bears are if they say they're at the 40 and just kind of, give myself like an individual. And I was listening to that punt. I'm like, all right, the defense got their stop. Let's go. Let's see what this offense can do. And then like the punt's up and I'm watching and then just I hear it slips through Bayless's hands. We all know how big I've been on Jones and whew, man, like that one hurt. But it's a learning experience for a rookie and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully he just learns to not drop those and
Drop
has a
it.
little bit
Yeah.
more focus. And I know that it's starting to rain and it's just bad all the way around, but damn, the third phase can make or break games for sure. My X factor this week though is not about the third phase. It's about something that's been preached all season long, and that's just the mental and physical stamina of this team. And the reason why I think that this is an X factor this week is when you look at the Vikings over their last two victories over the last 2 weeks, both games have been settled by less than a touchdown. And they actually won the game due to fourth quarter comebacks and game winning drives. Both the Saints and the Lions had their opportunities to seal the deal, but they failed to close the door. This Bears defense, they still have not given up a second half touchdown this year. Chicago's offense and special teams, I did have a note in here for it. Couldn't do what was needed in order to beat the Giants last week. The opportunities were there, as we mentioned, but they just didn't execute. So this game, it could end up being another close one late in the game. And really to order to like end up on top, the Bears are just need to outwork and outplay the Vikings down the stretch. I really think like this could be another game that's up for grabs in the fourth quarter. And if the Bears prove that they have the stamina that's better than their opponent, like we've heard about from these coaches, then they have a chance to win this game. But if they get outworked in that fourth quarter, obviously they're going to be on the wrong side of things here. So that's why the stamina of both the physical and mental assortment is going to be my X factor here for week 5.
I like it, Will. I like it. Look, they've been preaching, and the Bears have, I think, been, pretty good at that so far, but that needs to be something where don't allow the Vikings to beat you at your own game because they've been taught that the entire summer since Eberflus got here. But mental, physical stamina, let's see if they can show some on Sunday.
Now, I see a comment from Doug about his X Factor. And if you have some in the chat, please throw them in here. And if you're watching the replay, throw the comments. I love checking those throughout the week. He says that Roquan's the real X Factor. And there's a lot to this because of Dalvin
Mm-hmm.
Cook. And you talked about the Bears needing to stop that. And Smith needs to be able to flow to the edge and also be part of that run support, too. And that, which also just reminded me, we didn't even mention Dalvin Cook once. Is that because like the Bears more times than not has had his number? Is he just not like as impactful as he once was? I'm just curious to why you think we both really didn't have any, notes or keys around him.
Well, we kind of talked about containing the edge and a big factor why because of those running backs, but I think, with Dalvin Cook, and yes, the Bears have had some success in stopping him, but this is different. This is a completely new defense that hadn't stopped anybody. And his X factor, the X factor with Roquan there, that's going to be a big part of it. And it's not even just even the rushing attack from Dalvin Cook. Like there's a lot of plays from Adam Thielen where he's just open in the middle of the field because of play action moving the linebackers. So
Mm.
Roquan being an X factor in, every area of the defense is going to be huge for the Bears. But yeah, Dalvin Cook's a problem. I think everyone knows that. Everyone who's watching, all the Bears fans know that. And yes, like we said, he's had some success, but I don't even know if we need to talk it up that much because we all know.
We all know about Justin Jefferson, but I also had to go there. But I thought
Yeah.
the slot information was valuable to know heading in to this matchup. So we've given some keys, we've given some bold predictions, we've shared our X factor, but let's put it all on the table. Let's do the tail of the tape, and let's find out who has the edge. And this week, Nick, you're starting us off with the Bears passing attack and that Vikings pass defense.
Yeah, well, I'm still worried about this Bears offensive line. I really am, and that really factors how I think this Bears passing attack will do. And we talked about it. There are opportunities, but I'm still going to give this to the Vikings in the end here. I don't think you just fix your problems 1 week after putting Lucas Patrick at left guard, still have Sam Musfer at center, and you continue to see Tevin Jenkins. But we just talked about Dalvin Tomlinson. Like, I think he can be a problem. Just seeing how he was winning at the line of scrimmage, just have coming off his best pass rushing game, and then you mentioned, oh, Zadarius Thomas and Daniil Hunter on the edge too. That factors into what the Bears are going to be incapable of doing. So I'm giving the Vikings this edge here for the Bears passing attack versus the Vikings pass defense.
I love this comment from J2K. Unfortunately, I like this comment, but Daniel Jones exposed our quote edge. And I warned people last week that he's been, he's sneaky athletic and can make those. I did not expect him to get a 21-yard touchdown run. That's
Jogging.
just,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
it's just ridiculous to say the least. But whew, I'll digress. All right, Bears rushing attack versus Vikings run defense is mine. And I already seen a few people in the comments saying that the Vikings have a clean sweep. And well, they're wrong because I'm giving the Bears the edge here with their rushing attack. And the Vikings are just average again, stopping the run. And the Bears, up until last week, have been a top rushing team in the NFL. Of course, they run it more than most. They pass it way less. I think it's like 7% less than like the next lowest team so far in the NFL. But this Vikings defense, they average 4.6 yards per pop allowed and 131 yards on the ground surrendered per game. And as long as that Bears offensive line holds up a bit, and I know that's a concern with some of the fluctuation that we've seen and rotation going away that we've talked about. And of course, in order for this key to actually work and for this edge to kind of come to fruition, this Bears passing attack needs to be serviceable. The Bears should be able to run the ball. They really should with Khalil Herbert. And then this is what actually gave him the edge to me. It's Justin Fields and his ability to run the ball too. When you look at this season, the Vikings have only faced one like mobile quarterback so far this season, and that was Jalen Hurts against the Eagles. And he did some really good, serious damage against this Vikings defense. He had 57 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns, Hurts did. So I think the combination of Herbert and what Fields can do, as long as Fields is running, efficiently and not giving up some big opportunities because he doesn't see them and he just bails too early. Like I want these to be strategic runs that just break this defense right here. So for me, I'm going to give the Bears the edge. It's not as much as I wish I can give them the edge in this rushing attack because it's been good up until a week ago. But still, at least they have one edge. We'll see if they get another, but I don't have a lot of hope. I'll give it over back to you to let me know, though. Vikings rushing attack, and we kind of just talked about it a bit with Dalvin Cook and this Bears run defense.
The whole, having history and being successful against Dalvin Cook, that's great. But no, not this season, Will. The Bears, again, we talked about containing the edge, haven't done that. They're faced the most rushing attempts, giving up the most rushing yards this season. I don't think it gets fixed this week. And I think the Vikings know what the weakness is for the Bears defense. Matt Eberflus talked about that too. He's like, when a team knows your weakness, what's so great about the NFL is that you have to adjust or they're going to keep exploiting that weakness. Opponents know they can run on the Bears. Until the Bears do something about it, they're going to continue to run on them. So I'm giving the edge here to the Vikings. Unless something drastically changes, they just get locked in and somehow we can stop the run and it just happens. I can't give it to the Bears. And not against, two capable running backs, people that can get on the edge and I think it's just not a good matchup for the Bears this week. So Vikings get the edge here.
And no, I think the worst part, Nick, is like this Bears rushing defense issues. It's so multifaceted. It's being out of position. It's
Mm-hmm.
not getting to your spots in time. It's being outworked, out muscled to along those edges, and tackles being broke. A little bit of loafing too. It's there's so many things that are wrong with it. It's not like there's one area you can pinpoint and go, if they clean this up, that run defense just gets 10 times better. Like there's multiple things that need to be improved upon. And that's why I feel like most weeks than not, we're going to give the opponent the edge in this one.
And Will, too, it could just be lack of talent, too. Like all those
Mm.
things definitely are a part of it. But man, do the Bears just not have the playmakers right now to be really good at this facet of the game? And that could be it. Scheme, talent, and everything you just mentioned are all part of the equation here.
Yep. And J2K makes a great point about the gap
Yes.
integrity just being a big problem. You're right. Like they just kind of get in, another comment from him, the same gap, which opens up the C for those cutback lanes, and just the other holes just get so wide that it's just apparently obvious for a running back. Like, oh, I should hit that. Like NFL running backs, more times than not, they see an open hole, they're gonna actually go for it, and it's not like college where they open and they miss. Like more times than not, if
Mm-hmm.
there's a big hole, they're gonna hit it. All right, last one here, Nick. Vikings pass attack versus this Bears pass defense, which is mine. And this one goes to the Vikings too. So it wasn't a clean sweep, but the Vikings have 3 of 4 here this week. Jalen Johnson, Nick, do you expect him to play or nah?
He was at his locker yesterday. Wasn't really talking. You can't talk to the media. Can't talk to anybody who doesn't practice. I don't expect him to play. I know Jalen Jones too had an illness and he didn't practice. God forbid, like you're missing two more corners in the
Yeah.
secondary. But to answer your question, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but I wanted you to at least give me a chance. Like, if you thought he could, like, I could. I don't know if it would have swayed my edge, but it would have at least changed my reasoning a little bit. So, no, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones. Illness is so vague. I just hope he's healthy by
Hmm.
Sunday. So I'm going to just say I'm optimistic, but I can't guarantee he plays on Sunday. And man, we went hard on it, but about Kyler Gordon in the slot against Justin Jefferson. And don't forget, they also throw in KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen there too. Like, that's
Yep.
a really good trio that they're going to just rotate in that slot position. And the Vikings are going to test Gordon early and often. And all three of these receivers, they all bring something different to the table, and it's going to be hard for Gordon to kind of lock in on one specific player and kind of like figure out some of their nuances and those moves and those releases. He's going to be on his heels, I almost said on his toes, but unfortunately, probably on his heels most of this game. And really, when you look at just pass protection too, like Cousins, he's being protected at a decent rate. I know last week they were giving up some pressures, but on this season, only giving pressures on like 1/3 of dropbacks. So 66% of the time when he drops back to pass, like he has a clean pocket to work with so far this year. And as we saw from the Bears defensive line, they're not consistent at getting pressure themselves. So for all those reasons, the Vikings have the edge here too. All right, let's pause for just a moment. We're going to do some over-unders, MVB, our game picks, our confidence meters, and we're going to answer your questions. I see 9 questions already started. I'm hoping to see that reach double digits before we get to that final portion of our show. Love answering your Bears questions each and every week. Before we get to that final home stretch, we have a couple messages to share with you. And Nick, I want to go over to you first for FOCO.
Yeah, Chicago, you've already got the best coverage for your favorite sports team, so get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Foco has got you covered from Soldier Field to the front room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar. Bulls just had their first preseason game yesterday, so you're getting all the sports back. Love it. With the apparel from the leader in sports merchandise and collectibles, Foco. Looking for the best or for the perfect gift, not even the best, the perfect gift for the football fan in your life. Foco's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. Check out FOCO.com. Click the link below in the description. And for all non presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off.
And I want to let you know about Game Time, our official ticketing provider partner. And Game Time tickets, they're just the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets, sports, concerts, and shows. Ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? 50-yard line, courtside, being behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last minute price drops can be found on the seats that you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on the Bears. Heck, basketball starting up on the Bulls too. Obviously, then you can on the Game Time app. Created by the fans for the fans, which is something that really resonates with me. Obviously, that's kind of how we got here, Nick. And at the Game Time, they just guarantee the lowest price. So if you love CHGO, then you're going to love Game Time. The best way to support us is buying your tickets through the link in our description, both here on YouTube and in your podcast player. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats on all your favorite events. All right, take a deep breath, Nick, because we have one more stretch to get through, but let's play some over-unders. And there weren't a lot of lines available here this morning, but I got some for us to kind of play with. And I got Justin Fields to kick us off at 161.5 yards passing. Gosh, I hate that we can't even get these close to 2. But yet again, like, we're barely getting there.
161. Well, like I said over last week, and he went over. So I'll continue that trend. Over 161, I'll give it to Justin Fields, being over that very low mark.
I'm going to give them the over 2 again. This Vikings pass defense is very, very porous and beatable. And I gave all the stats as to why earlier. So I know they're beatable. Hopefully the Bears don't beat themselves here, but I think Justin can go over. So I'll double down on that. What about Kirk Cousins at 248.5?
I'm going to go under that mark, and just because I think the Vikings know they can run the ball. And so it's going to be more game manager Kirk Cousins, I expect on Sunday. So allow the running backs and everybody else to do the work and just Kirk Cousins manage things if he can do that.
Okay, I'm right there with you. What about Cousins at 0.5 interceptions?
I think Eddie gets them for one of them. Will so I'm gonna go over the 0.5, whatever it is. So I'll give him one.
You remember the Vikings Bears games 2018 with the whole interception, and then he did like the little rowboat thing.
Oh yeah,
Yep. As soon as he said Eddie in this matchup, like that's exactly where my mind went. That was fun times to be
good
had.
times,
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
times.
We'll get there again. It's got to be patient. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna. I already know where this one's gonna go, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Dalvin Cook at 78.5. I thought that's a very low line.
We're going over. Go over. So maybe Alexander Madison gets some snaps, takes it away from Cook, but I'm still taking the over on that.
Justin Fields at 39.5 on the ground. Ooh, this one has you
Uh,
thinking.
yeah, 39.5. We'll take the under, and I'm just saying that because I can.
I'm saying over. I expect the Vikings, the Bears to see something from that Eagles tape, and hopefully they want to replicate some of that. Hurts was just being able to run up and down him. Like I said, 2 touchdowns on the ground too. I'll give them the over here this week. And the last one for today is Darnell Mooney. I know your bold prediction was a bold prediction, but let's get back to reality. But the line's only at 42.5 receiving.
You go over that. He did that in one play against the Giants, so I'll give him the over on the 42.5.
All right. I'm going to say under because I want him to actually go over. And I felt like we're over in all of these. And someone needs to not put it all one way. So the world gives us the opposite. So just to kind of even things out, I'm going to give the under here. All right, Nick, MVB predictions. Who's going to be the most valuable Bear for us at the end of this game? I'm curious to who you have and which side of the ball did you go to?
I went on the defense, and whoever said the X factor was Roquan, I have him as my MVP in this game. I think for everything we talked about earlier, that's the reason why Roquan will be the most valuable Bear in the end. He's got a huge responsibility in trying to contain these running backs, making sure the middle of the defense isn't vacant off those play actions, and he's in a spot to maybe make a play in the ball. That's where a lot of Adam Thielen's catches were made last week against the Saints. So big responsibility for Roquan, obviously to lead that defense, but when it's all said and done, I think he's going to be the most valuable Bear.
All right. My MVP is also on defense. So just like we both went offense for our bold predictions, we both went defense for our MVBs. But you mentioned it actually in the over under. I'm going to go with Eddie Jackson. I think he makes
Mm-hmm.
a splash play here that can tilt the momentum of this game. Unfortunately, the Bears lost their first game in which he has an interception against New York, which what a streak for him to have. And, the Bears could have won that game, kept the streak alive, but unfortunately it's no more. Eddie Jackson's been playing at such a high level, which makes me just very happy. Just watching him in training camp and hearing from him, like I felt like it was coming. And I'm just very excited to see that coming to fruition so far in the early portion of this season. But Eddie Jackson, honestly, it just takes one big play, and that can just be valuable in its own right. But he'll be up there in terms of tackles, getting down, helping out, and run support. Obviously, I mentioned he needs to be probably handcuffed with Kyler Gordon a bit to help some of these matchups in
Mm-hmm.
the slot. Justin Jefferson. So Eddie Jackson, I think, is going to have a lot on his plate this week, and he's going to do a pretty damn good job yet again. So he'll be my MVP when it's all said and done. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I like it. Well, he's definitely back, and that's really nice to see because he was a guy on the way out. It seemed like, but it's nice to see Eddie Jackson playing the way that he is.
Drew TV is going with another safety, Jaquan Brisker. I like it. I would hope.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Brisker too, and excited to keep watching his development. Nick, we've discussed this game in full, and we've talked about how the Bears can win and beat the Vikings. But will they? Who wins this game?
The Vikings do. The Vikings win this game. Will again, I just think when you have this dilemma as a defensive, minded coach and Eberflus and Al Williams, where you have to defend the run, which you haven't done all season, and then Justin Jefferson, it's tough. It's tough to ask. So I have the Vikings winning 27-20. Again, it's tough for a lot of teams, and they are a 3-1 football team. I know, like I've been reading just some of the beat writers that cover the Vikings, not they're not like a true 3-1 is what I'm kind of getting the vibe of. But still, they have more talent than the Bears, so I will give it to the Vikings 27-20.
Okay, so I've given it to the Bears every single week so far. That changes this week. Unfortunately, my guts tell me that the Vikings will end up with the victory. I have the Vikings winning by a closer margin and a little bit lower scoring game at 23-21. The Bears get a few touchdowns, but the Vikings ultimately will win with some of those field goals I mentioned. The Bears are going to make them settle for. Vikings, when you look at them this season, they're 2-0 against the North. Eberflus is already 0-1 against first-year head coaches. He's also 0-1 in the division. At least the Bears covered the spread here. I think is like the one, I guess, slight positive I can come away with it. But I think at the end of the day, the Bears can keep this thing close, as I've mentioned. But they're just going to fall a little bit short due to some of that lack of talent and just where they are right now as a whole. The Vikings are the better team, but the Bears can still make it interesting.
I like it, Will. Hopefully that's the case. Seeing that how they can stack up against some of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. You can tell usually at this section, I'm like, all right, this is like a million reasons why the Bears can win. And that was the other way. I'm just like, oh, damn.
Well, let's move on.
Right, pretty much. So speaking of moving on, let's get our confidence meters out of the way. Obviously, it's gonna be under 5 because we both have the Bears losing. But scale 1 to 10, how confident are you in a Bears win this week?
I have them at a 4.6. Again, we did talk about ways for them to win, but there's just more talent on that side of the ball. I think in the end, like I said with my score, the Vikings just come out on top, but 4.6 in the confidence meter. Where are you at, Will?
Wow, I'm surprised you're over me. I'm at only a 4. I wanted to keep it round numbers, and I figured, hey, five's like a hit or miss, and just dropping it down to a 4, I guess, isn't all too terrible. But yeah, we've talked about all the reasons why the Bears could win, but also the big concerns we have and why the Vikings could just take advantage of their matchups and end up on the right side of things. And I just don't think the Bears have enough firepower in offense, and their running defense is gonna be lackluster yet again. And when he can't score an offense and he can't stop the run, it's really, really hard to win ball games, especially against good teams like the Vikings. So I'm just going to sit at a 4.
Sounds good, Will.
All
It
right.
does
Hey, we
so.
got double digits here for the questions that we are asking people. So that's very excited that we have a lot of questions that kind of came our way. Let's start with one from Gary Ross, and he wants to know who covers Jefferson if Jalen's out. So I mentioned when he's in the slot, you're looking at Kyler Gordon. I feel like, Nick, this one's a pretty easy one. It just depends on what side of the field he's on, right?
That and honestly everybody. You need all eyes on Justin Jefferson. Again, we talked about dilemma, but yeah, it's just not a one. It's not a one person job. And I know maybe if they're man to man coverage, yes, technically it is, but it's not a one person job covering a guy like that.
All right. What's next?
Justin Jefferson, he's a problem.
Kyle wants to know, do you think that putting Schofield at left guard and having Patrick play center will help in pass protection? That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know how it could hurt. Personally, I feel like, yeah, my only concern though, Kyle, would be if the Bears weren't ready to put Patrick at center when he had a full healthy offensive line with, Whitehair on the left side. I don't know what would change so quickly to kind of throw Schofield up. That's just kind of where I see it. What about you, Nick?
Well, I just don't get why he's not ready to play center. If he's
Same.
making blocks at left guard, right guard, and executing that, and not having anything on his right hand, I just don't see what is preventing him from playing the position that he was brought here to play. And he obviously was having that chemistry with Justin early on, and can help with the protection thing. So I just don't get it. When are we going to see Lucas Patrick play center? And it can't be worse than what it was last week. So why not try something different?
Yeah, and let's be honest, and a few people did mention this in the comments. Like Schofield's preseason wasn't great. It
No,
wasn't.
no.
It wasn't like one where it made you feel really good. I mean, the Bears, they cut him and brought him back, if I'm not mistaken, after training camp
Yeah.
too. So he's a player that maybe he helps, maybe he doesn't give you as big as a boost as you would hope, and that's why they're going to kind of remain pat. All right, who's next? AGM. Do you think the Bears should blitz more in this game in order to get pressure and stop the run, or worry about coverage more? It's definitely like a double-edged sword here in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like, the pros and cons of sending the blitz and sitting back in coverage. Which way would you lean here, Nick? Because I mentioned Cousins struggles when he's under pressure, but he doesn't get pressured a lot. But also, I feel like when you send a blitz, you open up some of those bigger holes. If the Bears don't hit home, you're in trouble. And sometimes blitzing is ineffective against a run too, which could put this defense in disadvantageous positions.
Yeah, I don't know if bringing the blitz is the best option here, just given the pass catchers that the Vikings have. And look, it just goes against, Matt Eberflus's philosophy, Alan Williams, what they do. They just don't blitz. That's just not how they believe they want to play defense and how they play defense. So ultimately, I don't think you're going to see it, and I don't think it's the right decision in this game.
I can't disagree with that logic. Next. AGM wants to know another question. Wouldn't running out of the gun make us a lot more predictable? I think it has. I think we've seen that so far this season. I'm still a fan of line up under center, smash mouth football. Nick's been pumping up blasting game for weeks now. But yeah, I have not seen as much success under center. I mean, under shotgun than I have at center.
Yeah, and I was actually talking to Kari. Now he's like, I went up to him like, "Hey, what's going on, Kahari?" He's like, "Hey, just want to let you know the H is silent." I'm like, "Thank you for letting me know that it's Kari blasting game." But yes, I agree with that. Just don't overcomplicate things. They had some success when they kind of go into that heavy package. See that.
All right. Doug wants to know, when is Smith Marset going to get some of those offensive opportunities? I would like a revenge game if we can
Mm-hmm.
figure it out now. I mean, what did he do last year, Nick? It was like 3 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown against the Bears. Like, if he can just pull one out of the hat and do it against the Vikings, like, hello, that would open up this offense completely. But at the same time, I know they're trying to get Bayless involved,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully. I'm going to say they're hoping, but also they didn't really do that at all a week ago. But when do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, well, I talked to him yesterday about this. I'm like, "Hey, Amir Smith Marset, what's it like going against the Vikings? Do you have a little bit more juice in you?" He's like, "No, it's just another game." I'm like, "Stop, dude. Like,
Sure.
stop it." And he's like, "It's just," and then he's smiling as he's saying this, like, "It's another team, it's a divisional opponent. Of course I'm gonna be ready." I'm like, I know you're just telling me that, but I asked him too, like, what can you do to help your fellow wide receivers? You know all those DBs. He's like, oh, I've already made like a cheat sheet of like how to kind
Ooh.
of go against like some of these DBs, and he knows those guys, and he's like, none of them can lock me down. So I'm like, he was really confident in that. I'm like, see, why didn't you just tell me that this game means a little bit more? They always got to sugarcoat stuff, but yeah, maybe seeing him more in the offense will definitely help.
Nick, he's just trying to make sure he doesn't make the bulletin board over there in Minnesota. He doesn't want to be bulletin board material.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, but just tell it to me straight. Let's
Off
go.
the record, off the record.
Off the record.
You're feeling it, right? All right. Do we have any others to get to? Gary with another question. Does Quinn have any trade value left with his disappointing season? I don't see much.
Okay, we're 4 games in, and yes, he hasn't played like last year, but I'm not like out on Quinn yet. I mean, this whole defense hasn't been playing well, but I did expect more out of him, but we'll see. It's only 4 games.
Well, my thing is, this isn't as much like being out on him, but like trade value in general. Like, if you're
Okay,
another
yeah,
team, like what kind of value could you get back from Quinn? And playing like this, obviously it hurts tremendously compared to like if it was the off season and he's coming off that big season. That
true.
trade value is definitely diminished.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
All right, let's see. Any others? Alex, does Eddie get another pick in this game? I hope so. He should have his opportunities. I used my MVB prediction for a reason. I don't like being the jinx guy, so I'm going to say I hope so. There's a good opportunity for him to do so. He will have
Good way
his
of putting it.
chances. That's how I'm going to frame this question or this
There you
answer.
go. Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Well, he'll have again some chances to hopefully get an interception on Kirk Cousins.
All right, and I got one more I wanted to throw up here. Will Tonga give away this all the secrets to the Vikings? Like, interesting timing for him to get signed over to the Vikings after spending his first season in Chicago and then all of the offseason here. But I don't know. What kind of secrets could he give them that they're not already seeing on film? Is my question.
He can tell him maybe what hits stands for, and so then the Vikings like, oh, okay, so they like to run to the football and are smart situationally and things like that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see what Tonga like. Yes, it is coincidental that you're playing them, but I don't know how much of a competitive advantage that is signing a guy like Tonga.
Okay, I think that's it for the questions that we got. Another excellent round. I appreciate everyone who did put a question in the chat for us to answer at the end of the show. Again, it's definitely one of my favorite ways to end a show with like a little bit of a mailbag Q&A session without question. Nick, any final thoughts before we kind of sign off?
No, just again, thank you to everyone who tunes into this Thursday show. Will and I love doing it. We love the interaction with everybody in the chat and whoever goes and downloads this, whatever you're doing. We really appreciate all the support. And yeah, the Bears Vikings Sunday. Make sure to tune to the post game show and just stay with us with all the coverage you're going to have throughout the week and after the game and going forward. And we have a quick turnaround. Well, we'll be doing this show, I believe, next is it Wednesday? Because the game third, I don't even know. Because we have a quick
Yeah,
turnaround.
it's going to be early. It's going to be early in the week. We have just like it's a challenge for teams in a short game week. We're going to fit in a lot of content and not a lot of time. So definitely stay on your toes and just get ready for this episode to drop earlier than normal next week because a big Thursday night game is coming our way. Nick, you said it great. I don't think I can top anything you said. We appreciate everyone. If you haven't yet, hit that like button before you leave. If you've been here the whole time, like, why not? If you think the Bears are going to win, hit the like. If you think the Vikings are going to win, hit the like. Whatever you do, just hit the like button. Definitely helps us out. And I appreciate seeing that number continue to rise throughout the week, throughout the weekend, and of course here on the live stream. And like Nick said, stay tuned for our post-game show on Sunday, and I'll see you all soon. But until then, bear down, Chicago.